Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Seek the Heart Book Club. We are on week 3. So excited that you guys could join us. I know several of you guys are going to catch the replay on this. Today, we have special guest and author Kelly Fritz with us. She wrote her chapter on seeking God's heart. And if you remember from the summit, she sees something very special everywhere she goes. But I'm not going to spoil the surprise if you don't know the answer yet. So Kelly, we're so glad that you were here. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes. Hello. Good morning.
So Kelly lives in picturesque Oregon. And man, I just love all the waterfalls out there for sure. She lives there with her beloved husband, Keith, and her stepdaughter, Cassie. And really, despite living with dyslexia, which we were just chatting about before we got started, she has cultivated a passion for writing. And that is a pretty rare thing because many people with dyslexia will go the complete opposite direction. Mm-hmm. And yet she's weaving together fiction and nonfiction narratives that inspire and captivate her readers. Her work is deeply influenced by her strong connection to God, which serves as a guiding force in her life and in her writing. And through her story, she aims to share the beauty of faith and the power of perseverance. Well, welcome. I'm so excited that we're going to get started today. You know, I just want to start off. What made you decide to join the Seek the Heart project?
Well, in January of 2024, I actually wrote down the sentence, seek the heart, is part of my morning affirmations. So I've been doing this whole project called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, where you get up early and you do all these things. And one of them is affirmations. So I actually wrote out the title of the book in January, 3 months before we even knew about that this was coming. And so I wrote it out and I would say it every day. And then, when I was asked to be part of the book and I found out what the title was, it seemed like, yeah, I should probably do this. This is probably what I need to do. And, we had a fast turnaround for it. And I'm so glad I did it. Sometimes in life, you never know where a yes is going to take you.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that, the Lord just kind of dropped it on your heart already. And, Kara O'Daniel, who's the compiler of the book, Seek the Heart. And it is available on Amazon, guys. And it is an international bestseller, which is super exciting for us as all the authors. Thank you for everyone who participated in helping us get to that place. But, when she was talking about this originally, she has always had that title, Seek the Heart. And something that the Lord laid on her heart, really. So it's just always interesting to see the confirmation come from all the different areas of how we were going to get to where we're going to go to the end result. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So really, you talk a little bit in your bio about dyslexia, and we were chatting about it before we got started. When you really think about, well, let's do this. Let's just describe what dyslexia is. For those who may not know, we all have an idea of it, but why don't you clarify for us?
Sure. So dyslexia actually is different for everybody that experiences it. So it's similar to autism, where for everybody it's different. But for me, my dyslexia shows up where I lose comprehension when I'm reading a sentence, if it's like a paragraph. And where it first began was not being able to spell words for the spelling tests growing up. I have this moment in my head where I remember I went from learning to barely surviving in school. And I know it was November. I know it was a Friday afternoon, and I was in the first grade. And I just remember looking around the classroom and not understanding how they were doing it. Like Mrs. Cook would say the word in the front of the room, and then they would all write it down and then move on to the next word. And I just remember going, how are they doing it? So for me, I occasionally get something called word blindness too, where depending on my stress, if I'm sick, tired, I lose the ability to even see the words in my environment. I have to hunt them down like I'm on a safari, especially when I'm driving. Hopefully that doesn't make people uncomfortable that I don't really read anything when I'm driving, other than stop.
That's good. Stop's
Yeah,
good. I'll take it.
So good. But like street signs, I've lived in the town where I'm at, and I obviously know my street and one street off of my street, but that's really it.
Wow.
So I guess with dyslexia, you have to have the ability to not know everything and just move forward anyway.
You know, that's so interesting that you say it's more like a spectrum component, because I don't think I've ever heard that before. And so to really think about what that looks like for each individual person, you know, my bestie has dyslexia, and for her, it was definitely the flipping of the letters and how she was reading the words. And the brain fatigue for you guys is off the chart, because you're just using so much capacity to get through to the other side. So do you find that you're more of an auditory learner then, and that helps you process things better?
Yes, I am definitely. I have accommodations at work. Any class that I take, I need the book in audio. In fact, just recently, my boss let me know that we're going to be having a new procedure in the fall with this whole new thing. And so I politely reminded them that whatever manual or whatever training they're giving, it has to be sent to me ahead of time. And if there is a manual for this test, it has to be in an alternative format. And I'm actually covered under Americans with Disabilities to have things covered. I actually get to break copyright rules because of my disability. I get to have that in another format. And I use technology to help me type emails. So I use speech to text and text to speech all day long. And that's actually how I wrote my chapter too. And then, of course, I have my own personal editor because I'm an author outside of this book too. And so she went through my chapter, and then I submitted it to you guys, and then there were some changes, you know. Yeah.
That is great. I'm glad to hear you mentioning some of the tools that you're using, because I think that's so important for people to understand. And accommodations at work. You know, my kiddo's just entering the workforce, and she's going to need some accommodations.
Yes. Yeah.
And oftentimes get into that situation where like, well, we don't want to mention anything. I just want to get the job, and then I'll tell them.
Oh, yeah.
And I would encourage everyone, like I had a TBI myself. And when I went back to school, got my master's, and then began to teach, you know, you have to be upfront with that. And that's one of the first things I'd share with the classes is like, guys, you do not understand. Those accommodations are not just a gift for you to succeed, but they're tools for you to succeed. And I'm so excited to hear that you are using the tools to help your success.
Yeah, I would actually recommend that if someone does have a disability and needs accommodations, to try to go and work at companies that have more than 100 employees, because there is this tricky little word that they like to use called reasonable accommodations. But I like to flip it. So reasonable accommodations really apply to businesses that have over 100 employees. So that's kind of the first thing you should know. The second thing is, let's talk about what is reasonable in 2025, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I found that actually the hardest obstacles that I've had to overcome is my licensing exams. Pearson Testing Company, ETS, and these other companies, back in 2013, it was actually ridiculous, the accommodations they were trying to offer me. And I had to like remind them that we have technology now. Like I shouldn't have to leave the room to take a test that everybody else is taking on their computer. And what it boiled down to is the test center didn't know how to use assistive technology. And so, you know, there are niches there that can be grown and like weeded out. In fact, my next book that I'm working on right now is all about how to have HR people understand dyslexia, and that we're actually a sought after disability if they really want to think outside the box and have innovation in their company, that they're actually thinking about it completely wrong. They actually want to find us.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's true for many people that are neurodiverse as well. They just do not see the creativity, the
Mhm.
concepts that they can see outside of what a neurotypical person can see. You know,
Yep.
typically the neurotypical is here. And it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you've heard this or not, but people who have dyslexia are now considered on the spectrum as well. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so they probably about 5 years ago put ADHD and ADD on the spectrum. We just found out that dyslexia has been kind of added to that spectrum. So it was really double interesting that you kind of called it's a range, right?
Yeah.
And it really is that spectrum because you're using your
'Cause-
brain differently.
Yeah.
And it's a
And
good
we see
thing.
things visually. So when you
Mhm.
talked earlier about the flipping of letters, well, what we're actually doing is taking each letter and turning it 360. We're spinning it like an object. So we see things, we think in 3 dimensions, similar to autism. It's probably why I have geared my career towards being an autism specialist, because I understand how they think. However, socially, I'm able to help them understand all these crazy social rules that, aren't necessarily written anywhere.
And what if we just got rid of all the rules? Wouldn't that make all of our lives a little
It
easier?
would, but that would mean that what that would honestly mean is we would have to be okay with people being different at work, right?
Right.
And not,
I
I'm
think
for it.
right, totally. And I think of Google, and not to promote any kind of company, but the things that I've heard about Google with their snack rooms and their break rooms and their sleep pods and the big slides, and I'm like, that is a bunch of neurodiverse people working at that place, right? Whoever
Yeah.
created all of those pieces. And one of the things that I want to do is work on a co-living home, and I'm already thinking, okay, we're going to need a quiet zone and a working zone, right? One that people can be quiet and one that they can talk, and then one that they can just be sensory, quiet, cold, dark, let them be.
Is this for adults or for parents to live with them? What do you mean by a co-living home?
Actually, this is actually geared for 18 plus because they need that little extra support and structure and what I would call resident advisor in the home. So they're actually going to be renting the rooms under different waivers, and then they'll have the resident advisors on staff full time for them. And
Great.
that also allows them independence.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing for you with dyslexia as well. You begin to question, I suspect, and at least I see this out of my own kid, am I going to be able to do this on my own? Am I going to be able to have a life like what everybody else has? There's no real normal. Like, let's just get that out there for a change. There's nothing that's normal in this world. Every one of us are unique by the design of the creator, right? And you talked a bit about that in your future. And I love that you talked also about, you're seeing these letters in 3D visual pictures, which one of our other authors is Dr. Temple Grandin. And she talks a lot about visual representation in pictures and how she herself sees everything. She can look at a project and instantly see how all the moving parts and pieces go together. So it's definitely your brain, what I like to call on steroids, because you guys are able to use this capacity of your brain that many neurotypical people, I don't think they know how to access it, and if we could do that, that'd be huge, So, as you're thinking about your letters and you're thinking about how those things rotate and you're thinking about how you have to see things visually, I suspect that's what led you to actually seeing your special thing that you talk about in your chapter. So share with us, what is that you see other than the letters on the rotating axis?
Yes. So I see hearts everywhere I go. I can find them inside and outside. I can find them in rocks. I can find them in little puddles on the ground, clouds. And my relationship with God it's started off kind of like a scavenger hunt where I would put a request out on what I wanted. I remember one day I specifically asked for a heart-shaped leaf. And I asked him for these certain details, the way the coloring would be. Another time I asked him for a heart on the shell of a snail.
Oh,
all right.
Wow.
So I would make the request to him in my head. And then I had this walk that I used to do, and I didn't deviate from it. So I would put a request out there that I want to see the snail. And then I would just go on my walk, and then I would be open to seeing it whenever he would bring it. So that's kind of that, that Bible verse that says, ask, seek, and knock. It's that same thing. Like, you're walking with faith towards it. Now, he could have decided to never do it, right? But he did. And I love it the days that I find the ones that I had requested. I think I've been doing this for well over 15 years now.
Oh.
And it's a way for me to stay out of depression and anxiety. It keeps me present. And my commitment to God is every time I see one, I stop what I'm doing and I take a photograph of it. And I find them when I'm cooking, like red onions. I find them all the time in red onions. And people now know me as that's what I do. And so they'll send me photos too. And I've realized now that there's kind of this layer to it. Like, people will always say, I find heart-shaped rocks on vacation. And if you think about the mindset you're in on vacation, right? You're like calm. You don't have a schedule. You're present. You're looking around. And so that's how I try to be during the day, right? And even my coworkers know we'll be walking to a home for an appointment, and I'll be like, oh, hold on, I got to take a picture. Sometimes the hearts are just for me, though. They're not to share with other people. So that's kind of happened too, how this relationship has evolved. And what I mean by that is, I believe in the story I wrote about the heart-shaped puddle on the doorknob. So that's one example. Another one is like in a cloud. It'll form and dissipate really fast, faster than I can take a photo. And that's when I know it's just for me. It's not to share. There's been other times, though, where it'll linger for like an entire day. And like that happened last summer when I was on my way to go bring dinner to a friend who had lost her son to a gun incident. And I just remember driving to Corvallis, Oregon, and seeing this giant heart like in the sky the whole drive. And of course, it was right near her house. And so it's just like this really beautiful way to help me see him around us. Because, the Lord says he's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And I'm just so glad that I had the opportunity, right, to write about what I'm doing and what I'm seeing. I really do believe that dyslexia or any other ability is a gift, right? That it's here to serve a purpose.
I couldn't agree more. That is just lovely. And it, as you're sharing those stories, it really just resonates that God's given you a little kiss, Yeah. And he's just reminding you, I see you. I want to give you your heart's desire, just like, an Abba Father who truly loves his children wants to do. And as a mom myself, like, the thing that I keep telling her is I'm team Katie. Like, I'm number one team Katie. I prayed you in for 10 years. I'm team Katie, right? And so much more is he team Kelly. And so much more is he team each person that's watching this video. Like, there's nobody else that's going to be on your team in a greater way than the one who created you. And just this little kisses that he gives us, and we're guilty. We look for the heart rocks on vacations. We started that little trick mainly to fill up a bearded dragon's little tank, but and so it's fun when we move to see all the little heart rocks that we collected along the way. Aww. So where do you think the most unusual heart has been that you've seen?
Let's see, the most unusual heart. The one that comes to mind is actually a 25-pound rock that I found at the beach. And I insisted that my friend Jen help me carry this sucker out. It's in the front of my house. It was a chore, man. Like, it was a good couple miles that we did this. And at one point she gave up and was like, I am not helping you. And then I'm like, fine, I'm dragging it. So I really had it in my coat, and I'm dragging God's love down this trail. Like, I'm bringing this home. And so she kindly refers to it as the stupid rock. And the back of the rock actually has quotation marks like dug into it, as if God was like, and yep, this is the stupid rock. Anyway, so the joke is, when I pass away, this rock goes to her.
I love it. Yes,
and I told my
fitting.
husband, if he passes away before me, we're gonna like stick it, like surprise her, put it at the house. Like, the stupid rock is going to my friend. I've just found so many. I mean, that one really sticks out. I find him in food all the time. Yeah, I just find him all over the place.
What made you look for a heart in the first place?
Well, what made me look for a heart in the first place is actually what my chapter's all about. I was at the beach and I got this download from God. And what a download is, like in a computer programming, is like from the cloud, you get a download, like you're downloading a paper or a photograph or something. My download 15 years ago was, today I'm going to see a whale. And I stood on the beach with 100% faith that I was going to see this whale swim up and swim away. Ask, seek, knock. Mm-hmm. Or in this case, it was more like tell, seek, knock. Anyway, I was there taking all these pictures as if the whale was going to just do it in a second. Like, I don't know if you've been there in your life where you have 100% faith that God's going to come through. Well, I didn't see the whale come up in the water. And when I went home with the photographs, I was showing my stepdaughter the photos. And that's when she said, look at the fish in the cloud. And I was like, whoa. So at that point, I got very secretive with my photographs. And I felt like the creator of everything was trying to talk to me. And then I tell people I negotiated with God. I said, listen, Lord, this is too big. And what if we bring it down and I just take pictures of hearts? So I was the one that brought it up. What if I do this? I don't think at that point I had really, my very first heart photo ever was on my honeymoon. Aww. And we were in Glacier National Park. We were driving down into the valley. And all of a sudden, this heart just drifted across the sky, and I snapped a photo. I had it on our wall for years. So that really was my first heart photo. But I didn't really look for them or anything like that. I kind of moved into this phase where I was looking for the letters of the alphabet, and I wanted from A to Z, and then I was going to put the letters together to make picture frames of things. And at that point, we went to the tulip garden. So out here in Oregon, we have 100 acres of tulips. And I thought, I'm going to look for an A, and I'm going to look for a B, and I'm going to look for a C. God help my family. They're so great. They spent 3.5 hours at the tulip field while I'm wandering around looking for the letter A. If that's not neurodiversity, right? Like a little obsessed. Well, the first letter I actually found was the letter H. And the next letter I found was O. And now I'm super confused. I'm like, this is not my plan. Then I found a P. And then I found an E. So I actually found hope in the garden. So God gave me a word. And I don't really remember at what point. I think the whale story happened after this, time-wise. And so I do have some pictures on my wall in the dining room that have faith, hope, and love, family, and believe out of things I've taken photos of in, and actually the hardest letter to find was the letter J.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the hardest one for me to find. And I didn't find it until I went to my dad's house in Montana, and he took a bunch of rocks out of this turning. He was shining them, where they like turn them in that machine. He took them out and laid them out, and there was a big white rock with a letter J on it.
Oh, isn't that cool?
Yeah,
Oh my
so I
God.
had like kind of found one that was like a tree, but it looked weird. And so J was the hardest one. You would think I would be but I found I all over the place. And so then, I mean, now I'm getting kind of deep with you, but then I started thinking, when the geese fly over, is God spelling out words to us?
Oh,
Because it's not always a V.
that is a true statement. Yep.
Yep. And so I started watching and like, wow, is he like saying words to us with the birds, like specifically geese? Because you know how they fly and they're big. And yeah, once you start watching them, it's kind of amazing to see if you're open to the fact that God is speaking to us all the time, right? And that he uses his creation because he created it. And anyway, it's just this really beautiful. It makes like living here on earth bearable when you can like be like, "Ooh, I wonder what next beautiful thing I'm going to see." So
I like that outlook there, because so many things in our life are hard. I'm sure you did not have an easy childhood with what you had to walk through. And I know my kiddo wasn't, and me recovering from a TBI and several other things, not easy. So finding hope. I love that was one of the first words that you found, because I'm near and dear to my heart is helping people find hope in the middle of medical chaos. And I love that was your first word. And when we identify that hope, we're more likely to look for the hope instead of really death, because everything comes down to life and death, right? And hope is all about life. When we can find that life, we can move through the hard moments. And the reality is, we all have hard moments. It doesn't matter what your income bracket is, you are going to experience hard moments in your life. And what are you going to do in those times, no matter who you are, where you are on the economic system? If you can find the hope, then you're going to move through it. You're going to get through it. You're going to learn from it. And it's going to be an opportunity of strength. And I just love that in the middle of your dyslexia, you are finding letters.
I know. Isn't that ironic? I'm like, okay. And the thing is other people that can read don't see them.
I just love that. I think it's brilliant. Like how God's done that for you. That is just so cool. I love it.
One day I was driving with a friend of mine after church, and I looked up and the geese were in the shape of a question mark.
Oh, that's classic.
And I was like, I actually said out loud, "What are you doing? That is not what you're supposed to be doing right now. You're supposed to be in the letter V." And then Debbie, my driver, was like, "Boy, Kelly, you sure do notice things." And I'm like, "Well, how can you not?" It's like, it's so weird to me that they notice all the words and they don't see like the world, around us. And so then I kind of went down this whole conversation about something that I had read in the scripture, and we were kind of debating it back and forth. And then I quoted the verse about how God knows like the life of a bird, right? That verse about how I can't quote it straight to you in this moment, but it's basically like he knows the life expectancy of the lily and the bird, right? And the numbers on our head, or I mean, not the numbers, the hair. Yeah, that was a dyslexic moment, right? But he knows the numbers of the hair on my head. And then right then, like on cue, bam, a bird hits our car and dies, like right then. And she screams and she's like, "What was that?" And I go, "God making a point." Right? I mean, it kind of sounds arrogant in that moment, but that's really like, we're here to do a job. All of us have something really important to do for God. He has a plan for us. He wants us to prosper. I was just telling someone recently that God's abundance is not a stagnant pool or a pond with like, you know how it gets murky and kind of gross and like, I mean, it's still beautiful, right? Yeah. But it's more like a white water rafting river, and we're in the kayak with our helmet, and we are like,
I like
right?
that. Yep. That is
Yep.
a very true statement. Yep. Since I'm an avid rafter. Yep.
Yes. Yep. Like, here we go. I mean, you're braver than I am. I will kayak only in like smooth water. Like, but you know, that's his abundance. That's what he has for us. And if we can like be brave enough to like get into our kayak and go out in the river, right? He's gonna take it like our book, right? It was a matter of like 4 hours of it launching, and I just remember how exciting it was with you on the Zoom that day, and we were like, we did this, and then we did this, and we did. It was just like, oh my gosh! But I knew this whole project that we were being positioned. We were being positioned for something really important, because what I do know, having dyslexia, is I've read through the scripture. I actually purposely read through the Bible to look what it says about people with disability. It took me 7.5 years to do it, but I like stayed the course. And we are very valuable to God. Anybody with we are so valuable to him. And it does not surprise me at all that he did this for us. And which means, you guys, if this is like our first step, imagine what's coming next.
Amen.
Amen.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Well, on that note, what is your next? What's coming up for you?
Well, my next is the Cascade Writers Conference. I'm going to be going there with our book. It's a 4-day conference out here in Oregon. And then I'm working on a book called Made to Made, MAID to MADE. I'm hopefully going to have that launched and ready to go. My goal is the end of July. I've been working on it for quite a while. It's my life having dyslexia, but I'm really gearing it towards parents and HR people, because that's really kind of where the concern is. Like, how do I get a job? How can I convince HR to trust me and trust the process? And, you know, parents of kids, what do we do? Like, what do we do to help our kids? And, you know, kind of the controversy is, if you're out of high school, all of the plans to help retrain your brain are really great, but it's not really practical for people like us to pay for that extra tutoring once we're an adult. Some people do choose to do it, and I'm not saying that is it's a good thing, but if you can't do it, then what's next? What is the next thing that you can do? And so that's the process. I'm working on my speaking career. I'm working on my writing career. And then I'm also a wellness coach with a company called Arbonne. And so navigating that, it feels like I'm in 3 rivers at times, like, whoa. So we are going to the national convention for Arbonne. I'm doing that. And I'm just trusting the process, because it's funny how the book got this big high, but then the other things I'm working on were kind of down here, right? But it's an ebb and flow, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Just like on that river that we were just talking about. Yeah.
Yep. And exactly.
And, you know, at the point that, you know, all 3 of your rivers converge, I mean, that's going to be quite a rush. And we should have multiple streams of income. And that's really what you're setting yourself up for as well. And, you know, a lot of people think those multiple streams of income, each one needs to be $1 million. No, you just need consistent income in each of the locations, and think about what your life would look like. You know, if each one even had $700 to $1,000 a month in each of your avenues, you know, when you think about that. So I love that you are finding balance and trying to figure out what that ebb and flow looks like with all that. And so just to wrap up our time together, if somebody's struggling to see the beauty or the meaning in their challenges, you know, what would you say to them? How would you speak to that in their life?
Well, what you think about grows. That's what we know. The little things add up. My favorite verse to use with my husband all the time is how you do the little things is how you're going to do the big things.
Mm-hmm.
And think of life like a light switch. Okay. If you are always thinking that the glass is half empty, things don't go right for me, what I want to challenge people to do is hold the thought inside, hold it in your hand, and then start listing off some positive things. You actually have to train your brain to think more positively.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do it. You can do it through writing out 3 things you're grateful for. I tell people before you go to bed, think of 3 things you're grateful for that day. If you want to take it to the next level, think about 3 things you're grateful for yesterday, the day before. Because now what you're doing is you're accessing your memory bank. You have to stop. You have to stop that cognitive, I call it the dryer, like when you're super negative and you're just like spinning out. I still get that way, but there's certain things I know that help, like drinking water helps in that moment, making sure you're getting enough sleep, having habits, and then gratitude. And what happens is you're replacing your thoughts with that are negative to things that you're grateful for, because you can't think about different things at the same time. So for instance, you can't think about fear and gratitude at the same time. And so it's like brushing your teeth or riding a bike or learning to drive a car, right? It's just reprogramming it. And if you can do it enough times, it'll just reprogram your head.
That is perfect. That's a very good grounding technique for people too. It's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing. What are 5 things that I see? What are 4 things that I feel? What are 3 things that I touch? So it's the same concept. You know, the Lord kind of challenged me this year. He always challenges me every year to do something for a year. Last year we didn't do so great, but this year we were working on gratitude actually.
Oh, good.
Posting out on Facebook, you know, what's one thing that I'm grateful for each day. And it's funny because in the middle of that book launch for Seek the Heart, I like missed a couple of days. I'm like, okay, we're gonna just do it all in one post. Here's in the last 3 days, because
I'm grateful I was able to make it through and help everyone. You were so wonderful for all the things you did, Crystal. I mean, we are all so grateful.
I'm just excited of how it worked out and where we got to. I mean, it was totally divine presence and his favor in hand on that book. And I do want to encourage everybody, if you've not picked up a copy yet, please do so at Amazon. The ebook is still out there. I think we've got it at $2.99 right now. And so we want to keep it affordable for everybody, because we know the impact that book's going to have on people's lives. Yep. And guys, it's not just Kelly in there. There are 19 other authors, including Temple Grandin, an interview with her. And when you realize the depth of what these authors have lived through, walked through, their journeys, and they're still continuing. Several authors have had massive things happening, even during the book launch and afterwards. Yep. And you realize you're not alone. You're not alone in the challenges of what you're facing in your life. And when you, just like when Kelly was talking about in the first grade, she realized something was different than how everybody else was doing it. And you may be realizing that. And I want to speak to you guys for a second about that, because you're not alone. You're never alone. Mm-hmm. And the one that made you sees you exactly where you are. And the greatest thing that can happen is for you to realize he's got the best solutions. It doesn't have to be something that comes out of this head or this heart. It can be, what do you have? Because there's always a door 3 to get you through your hard places. Doesn't mean it's always easy to get through the hard places, but they're opportunities for growth, for strength, for leverage in business opportunities. Look at what Kelly's been doing, right? She's taking what she learned and then how God put that into this whole conversation around hearts and seeing letters, which I just still think is so cool for you to have dyslexia. And then look what he's done. He's had you write these books, and you're about to revolutionize the HR domain for them to understand hiring people who are not in this little box, could make a huge difference and impact in their company and in their
Yep.
culture of their company.
Yep.
And kudos to you for doing that. That takes a lot of strength, a lot of focus, and a lot of dedication to knowing that your life can be leveraged for impact for other people and an inspiration for them. So thank you to that. And hats off to you for that. So guys, thank you so much for being here. Kelly and everybody who's watching the replay, we appreciate you. And we meet here every Monday for the next, I think we have 4 more weeks left for book club. And we hope that you guys will join us back next week. Until then, guys, seek the heart and look for those hearts in the clouds. Thanks so much, guys.
Bye.